So welcome back guys to the IELTS Grind. I'm Phil.
And I'm Michael.
So we did ask you a while back what kind of videos you'd like to see on the channel in the new year, and lots of people said we need speaking videos. So that's what we're going to do today.
Today we are going to be giving you some high-level Part 3 native speaker answers.
Oh yeah, lots of them.
What do they need to do with that?
So what we think would be the most useful for you is to listen to the answers and take note of the expressions we use, the vocabulary that we use, because it's all going to be high level, and also look at the grammatical structures. But there's also a very important thing that you can do, which is to take note of the way that we answer the questions, which is always first with...
Which always starts with the main idea. You want to directly answer the question first, and then follow that up with your supporting details.
Yeah.
Now, we are also going to be giving you one accent to work with here. Why are we doing that?
So it doesn't matter whether or not you use British English or American English in the IELTS exam, but you do need to be familiar with both. And it's the accent, the expressions, vocabulary, all these sorts of things. It's a wonder that we can understand each other. And so today we're going to be doing the mighty British accent with all my lovely vocabulary. Don't worry, Mike, it's going to be wonderful.
Yes, wonderful.
Okay, let's jump into it.
We've been talking about a popular TV star. Now I'd like to talk with you about this with a few related questions.
Okay.
Let's consider, first of all, watching TV. What types of programs are most popular in your country?
I think it really depends on the time of day. For daytime TV, for sort of those homemakers, women, men at home, there's a lot of these shows where it follows people who are buying homes. So they do tours of homes and things like that. There was a very popular TV show called Under the Hammer, which is basically following people who are buying homes at auction, which means where you don't buy it from an estate agent or from the owner, but it's actually in a room with lots of other people who are bidding on that. And you can get these houses fairly cheap, and then people do them up. They do some construction, they refresh the decor and that sort of thing. But in the evening, I think for prime time television, it's more documentaries or perhaps series. And I think people really like a little bit of suspense, a bit of drama. So murder series are quite popular in my country.
Why?
I guess people like gore. They like to be afraid. It gets the blood pumping. Personally, I always watch these from behind a pillow. I hate suspense.
So you mentioned daytime TV versus primetime TV. Which is more popular?
I don't have the figures at my fingertips, but I would say for a working population, it must be prime time. I suppose that's where the expression comes from, prime meaning better, I suppose. So you must get more people watching in the evening. But then again, there's a lot of people who are home during the day, retired people, also children coming home from school around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't really know the answer to that, unfortunately.
Where do most people watch TV shows now?
Well, things have changed. In the past, they would have only watched it in the living rooms. But now we have devices, we can watch it anywhere. I watch TV shows on YouTube quite a lot, and I think a lot of other people do the same thing. There are streaming services. If you wanted to watch TV, there's really nothing stopping you from watching it on the beach to the top of Mount Everest, I think.
Is piracy a big problem?
Well, piracy, I think, to my mind, this was more of an issue with films, movies. People used to download movies for free off the internet, and they always used to have those messages, piracy is a crime, you wouldn't steal a handbag. And then, I would be downloading it for free going, probably I would. For TV shows, I'm not sure if piracy is an issue. On YouTube, I know that if you upload something, it quickly gets taken down if there's any sort of claim against it. So again, I'm not really sure.
Do you think streaming companies like Netflix and Hulu will replace traditional TV media companies?
Yes, in my opinion, I think this is going to happen because just the way that industry works. And the major factor for me is advertising. I don't often watch cable TV or anything like that, but I did do this the other day and I was just surprised with how many commercials there are. And I have to admit, this was particularly American TV. It seems that there are more adverts than anything else. And it's just infuriating. Come on, show me the program. I want to see what's happening. And for just pure annoyance, I think that if streaming companies don't have advertising, if they just rely on subscriptions, then they're going to quickly replace ordinary television.
So do you think that these media companies, both the ones that own and run the public broadcast channels and also those that are cable networks, do you think that they will eventually go out of business?
I think it's inevitable that some of them will, but it's not the first time we've seen something like this. In business, you need to adapt. And a very good example of this was actually Netflix and Blockbusters. And they were in the video rental, if you remember what a video is, cassette videos, VHS. And Blockbuster used to be the place to go if you wanted to rent a movie. And Netflix used to do a similar service, but then they kind of changed it where they did a postal service. And then they moved into the streaming as we know them today. And Blockbuster, for whatever reason, just didn't adapt. They kept to their guns. They kept to the classic sort of structure that they had. And who knows about Blockbusters now? And I think that this will happen for many other companies. But an example from my own country, the BBC. So they are the classic British broadcasting company. And they do actually have what's called the iPlayer, which is a way of streaming TV shows and to watch it, later on. And there's another channel that has a similar thing. So they are moving towards the digital format. But unfortunately, it's only available in the UK, which really annoys me.
Speaking of that, do you think that in the near future that these streaming companies will find a way to get around geographic gating of their content?
I don't know if it's the question of they are going to get around it or the users are going to get around it. It's an interesting question. I don't really have an answer for you. I suppose from pure business sort of point of view, it's going to be better to have more people using your service. So it's just a question of them opening up to everyone. I think at the moment it's more they are blocking people from watching it, as far as I know.
Now let's consider theater.
Okay.
Did theater play an important role in your country's past?
I think so, yeah. There was a vote several years ago, the most famous Briton, or the best Briton in the world. And I think Winston Churchill did win it, but a close runner-up was William Shakespeare, who's a famous playwright. And he is from the 1600s, so he's a contemporary of Elizabeth I, the famous queen. And he wrote many, many plays. And back then, theatre was more inclusive. It wasn't necessarily just for the rich. You could pay very little as a fairly poor person and get access to it because it was just one way to socialise. And I think that really shaped British culture, certainly language, and theatre really was integral to sort of life in Britain at that time. So yeah, I think it's very important.
How does going to the theater compare to other forms of entertainment in your country?
I would say nowadays there's more of a sort of a prestige, or it's kind of a bit of a novelty, I would say. So London is a really good place to go see theatre, and we've got Drury was it Drury? Yeah, Drury Lane. That's the place it's called. It's a lot like Broadway for New York. And there we've had shows that have been going on for years. Things like Lion King or Mamma Mia. There are lots of famous things like this. Most of them written by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And a lot of tourists, when they come to visit London, that is one of the things they do. They go out and see a show. And so for that sense, it's kind of very British. But it's also, it's a special occasion. When you do go, you kind of dress up, and it's, if you take the kids, it's a big experience. So that's really how it is going to the theatre in the UK.
And how is that different from going to the movies or the cinema?
Well, I mean, even today, going to the movies is less common, I would say. But yeah, going to the movie, it's more relaxed, and you know, you tend to eat food while you're watching, whereas in the theatre, you may have something to eat in the intermission, but you wouldn't necessarily be chewing on popcorn as the actors are singing or performing. I would say, yeah, going to the movie, it's more of a last minute thing, as, hey, I've got nothing to do, or you've seen an interesting trailer, and it can be a spontaneous act. Whereas going to the theatre, you've got to plan it, because it's a pretty penny to actually go. It's not cheap.
Which is more popular as a pastime?
Oh, definitely going to the movies. It's, yeah, I haven't been to a theatre in many years, but I go to the movies on a regular basis.
Okay. So should the theatre be publicly funded?
I think so. I do think so, because culture is a very important thing, and if you don't support culture, it dies. And it's, as I said, for London, for Britain as a whole, many people come to watch these shows, and it can be a great sort of revenue source for the country in terms of tourism. And also there are smaller organisations that without public tax money, they just wouldn't survive. And, you know, some of the most celebrated personalities come through that. They go to drama schools, they become famous through the theatres and become movie stars. And I think if that went away, it would really taint sort of the general experience of life.
Good, thank you very much. That is really the end of the speaking test.
Let's do it. Okay guys, hopefully you found that very useful. Don't forget, go back and look at those answers again. Look at how we approach it with the vocabulary and the grammar. You will find that this will help you improve your own speaking score.
Yay!
Also, if you did find it a useful video, definitely give it a like.
Yay!
It's going to really help us out. And another thing that will make him go,
yay!
is if you leave a comment. If you've got any questions, or perhaps you'd like to leave an answer that you've come up with yourself, that's going to be really cool as well.
Yay!
Yay! See you later. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Yay!